All right, well, welcome everyone. It's great to see some familiar names on the line and also some new names. We're super grateful that you chose to spend this hour of your afternoon with us. We know everything's super busy towards the middle of quarter 4, so we're really thankful that you guys are joining. I am Rebecca Sharp. If you have not met me before, I am the stakeholder manager at the JIM, and I will be one of your speakers for today. As our title suggests, we will be unpacking emissions and impact reporting in emerging markets. And today, your speakers will be myself, yours truly, and also one of our superstar interns, Sumiran Chandra. So we can go ahead and go to our agenda slide. So here is what is on the agenda for this afternoon, morning, or evening, whatever it is in your time zone. Today, we will be going over a high-level overview of impact assessment and reporting. We'll go over some of the reasons to do that, as well as some of the barriers that many institutions encounter while impact assessing and reporting. Next, we will introduce you to the Joint Impact Model, or the JIM, and we will provide some ways that the JIM can help you surpass these barriers. Next, Sumiran will present an example of the JIM in action with an example with Azerbaijan as a case study. As you guys know, COP29 is in Azerbaijan this year, and we are not, but we will be providing a case study on Azerbaijan. Finally, we will close, and then if time allows, we will open the floor to a Q&A. During the presentation, if you do think of a question, please type it in the chat and someone from our team will address it, or we may address it live during the Q&A if we have time. Okay, so jumping right into impact assessment and reporting. We can go to the next one. Why is it relevant to assess and report your impact? First, assessing and reporting on your impact opens the door to a wider range of climate finance opportunities. Many of those climate investors that you want to work with have certain criteria and concerns about transparency and credibility. Producing an impact report demonstrates how an institution contributes to climate adaptation, mitigation, or resilience. So, in the eyes of a climate investor, reporting an impact helps reduce those perceived risks. It also demonstrates how your institution has implemented those due diligence frameworks and robust mechanisms that show that you've monitored, evaluated, and managed those climate-related investments. So, if you're looking to increase your institution's access to climate finance, reporting and assessing your impacts, especially your GHG emissions, is a great place to begin. Second, another key reason to report and assess on your impacts is that it contributes to the overall accountability and transparency of the financial sector. I know we're probably all aware that there's many regulations aimed at increasing this transparency. So we have the regional regulations, the SFDRs, the GRIs, things like that. We also know that some nations have their own reporting guidelines. Basically, most institutions are required to report some sort of impact by either those regional or national regulations. So by assessing and reporting your impact, you're maintaining your compliance to those regulations. Additionally, reporting and assessing your impacts, whether they be positive or negative, increases trust with stakeholders and investors, whether they have a climate focus or not. So it is a best practice. Additionally, reporting and assessing can help foster those partnerships and collaboration in the industry. We all know that the financial industry can be competitive, but it can also be collaborative. And when institutions commit to reporting, transparency and trust amongst stakeholders and the general public improves. Finally, it's relevant to assess and report your impact because it helps institutions build resilient portfolios. So when assessing GHG emissions, for example, institutions can identify those carbon hotspots of their portfolio, hopefully, before being mandated by regulation to take action. So they're jumping ahead of the curve when they already report and assess impact. Assessing that impact, like I said, it allows for early action. Institutions can already begin to manage those transition risks and they thus solidify the success of their portfolios long term. Moving on, so we hope by now we made a convincing argument for the need to assess an impact report. But now let's jump into what barriers may prevent institutions from reporting and assessing impacts. So first, we have regulatory complexity. I already kind of glazed over those regulations that we know exist. However, I think it is important to address, everyone already knows this, but the evolving landscape of disclosure regulation is incredibly complex. It's difficult to decipher which regulatory landscape an institution even needs to report to. There's the regional ones and the national ones, like I said, and it's even just such an exercise to understand these regulations and know where to begin with providing data and analysis that is aligned to those frameworks. Second, we have the time and it's reporting on your impact and assessment, or assessing and reporting your impact is time and resource intensive, and especially if you have lack of data. So these two are very much intertwined together. We know that reporting and assessing on impact takes a lot of time and money, especially if you are trying to attain that direct data. But we also know that in some cases, especially in emerging markets, direct data does not yet exist. And then these institutions are left to figure out how to generate such data on their impacts. So these are the three key barriers that we chose to highlight. But fear not, we have a tool to help. So the JIM was actually created to directly address these barriers and to make reporting and assessing impact attainable for everyone. So these are the three key ways we chose to highlight today on how the JIM helps. First, we did the hard work for you. So we have ensured that the JIM is aligned to the evolving and complex regulatory landscape. And we've ensured that when you use the JIM, you are compliant with those main regulations that you must adhere to. Secondly, we reduced the data collection burden. So the nature of the JIM is that we require minimal data inputs. We all know that the best case scenario is that an institution would have direct primary data. However, when that's not available, the JIM steps in and can fill in those data gaps with modeling and estimation. And finally, the JIM aims to help level the playing field. We know that spending money on consultants or building your own tool is extremely costly. And as a nonprofit, we aim to provide a state-of-the-art impact assessment at an accessible price. So our main goal is to hold institutions accountable and also make impact measurement and reporting widely available to everyone in the financial industry. So with that being said, let's take a quick look at the JIM Foundation and how we got here today. So if we can move on to the Joint Impact Model Foundation slide, the foundation was established officially in 2022. And the foundation was established to oversee the development and the implementation of the Joint Impact Model. The model is a web-based tool that was created by major European development financial institutions, the African Development Bank, and FinDev Canada. And they created this tool to contribute to the harmonization of impact measurement and reporting, and to allow institutions to assess the impact of their portfolio, especially in emerging markets. Today, as we became a membership organization in 2022, we became a nonprofit membership organization, and we are now proud to provide our tool to nearly 70 members. So as you can see in this next slide, we now have nearly 70 members, and we provide the JIM to a range of DFIs, impact investors, and commercial banks in emerging economies. So a wide range of providers in the financial industry. Next, just to give you guys a high-level overview of the impacts that the JIM calculates. We have those 4 impacts here. What is important to note is that this climate risk impact on the far right is part of an additional module of the JIM, and it's extra. So it's not with the impact module, but it is a new initiative that we just launched, and it's a separate tool. But note that the JIM can provide this as well. So the first impact that the joint impact module estimates is GHG emissions. So we identify that as the sum of carbon dioxide and non-carbon dioxide emissions, and it's broken down into scopes 1, 2, and 3. With scope 3, as of now, we estimate the upstream emissions, and in the next few months, we will be also providing those downstream emissions. Second, the JIM estimates jobs supported. So we define that as all working people 15 years and older who are engaged in any activity to produce goods, provide services. And we break that down into direct, supply chain, and then induced jobs. Finally, the JIM estimates value added, which is the sum of salaries, taxes, and savings equivalent to GDP, and we express that in monetary value. Further, we break that down into salaries, taxes, and profits. And then to offer a glimpse of the climate risk that the JIM can calculate, this is a combination of hazard scores and sector sensitivities to provide a risk score. And that is broken down into 14 different hazards and then further desegregated into short-term risk, mid-term risk, and long-term risk. So now we're going to see how the JIM works with a practical example presented to you by Sumiran. Over to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello, everyone. So to bring to life the JIM model that Rebecca just explained, I will be presenting the Azerbaijan as our case study. And we will basically be exploring the economic and environmental impact of the Azerbaijan Central Bank's activities. I will begin by outlining the key areas of the impact that JIM highlights, that is the GHG emissions, job supported, and economic contribution. And the following slide, it just presents the data of the Azerbaijan Central Bank exposure for the year 2023. The key impacts of the Azerbaijan Central Bank, let's start with the big picture. So this central bank has played a crucial role in supporting Azerbaijan's economy, and it contributes around 3.2 billion USD to the GDP. And the total contribution to GDP highlights the economic significance of investments. And it also supports around 400,000 jobs with an emphasis on formal and female employment, which you will see how it's later bifurcated. But the main important thing here is the central bank's activities that result in 4 million tons of CO2 emissions. And this represents the total financed emissions, showcasing the environmental mark and highlighting the importance of ongoing efforts to balance both economic growth and environmental responsibility. Now, let's break down these numbers. GHG emissions. So on your left, you can see that this slide mainly focuses on total financed emissions by the central bank, which amounts, like I said before, to 4 million tons of CO2 equivalent. And on your left, the graph that you see that gives an overview of scope 1, 2, and 3 upstream, which are further divided into CO2 and non-CO2. And on your right, you see a pie chart, and that pie chart gives an indication of all the sectors and the emissions share per sector. So from this, you can see that the top 3 sectors that have the highest absolute emissions include industry and manufacturing, transportation and communication, and agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, with 36, 22, and 17% respectively. Among this, industry and manufacturing has almost 1 million ton of CO2 emissions. While this highlights the environmental cost of economic activity, it's also nice to know that it's not surprising, as these sectors are integral to Azerbaijan's economy. Moving on, now let's look at employment. This slide focuses on the significant role of investments in supporting jobs across various sectors. And importantly, the focus is on formal and female employment. So the graph on your left, you can see that Azerbaijan's investments, as I said previously, the big number, 400,000 jobs are supported, with a remarkable 72% being formal employment. And what's even more encouraging in this is that more than 50% of these positions are held by women, which we can see actually promotes inclusivity in the workplace. And in this, the top three sectors, so top three highest job supporting sectors include trade and industry with 125,000 total employment, agriculture, forestry, and fisheries with 120,000 total employment, and industry and manufacturing with 55,000 total employment. Now, on your right, you see our third pillar, that is the value added. Now, in terms of GDP, the central bank's impact is substantial, as we already saw, with 3.2 billion USD. But the three main sectors contributing to employment and GDP, those include trade and services, which is the largest contributor with 915 million USD in employment value. Then industry and manufacturing, which adds approximately 630 million USD to employment, which also reflects the vital role in Azerbaijan's industrial base. And then the third one is building and construction, which contributes 570 million USD, which also showcases the importance of infrastructure development. Then we have the climate risk, which is the CR tool, which evaluates how climate-related risk could impact the bank's financial portfolio across different timeframes. And as you see, this heat map shows the areas of risk and the level of risk that these areas are susceptible to. And these scores range from insignificant to extremely high. And here our focus is mostly on agriculture, forestry, and fishery sector. And it also gives this CR tool, it gives the banks to think about how they can better incorporate climate risk into their decision-making processes. And to wrap up, Azerbaijan's central bank is at the heart of a very balance between supporting the economy, creating jobs, and addressing environmental challenges. So they need to come up with need to balance these three accordingly. I will now hand the baton back to Rebecca.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Sumiran, for presenting that information on Azerbaijan for us. To make this a little bit more tangible and accessible for how you would use the JIM to go and to use the JIM for your own institution, we're going to go through these steps that are required for you to successfully use the JIM. This is not going to be a demo by any means, but it's more of a high-level overview of what sort of data is required. Right. So the first step that we recommend is to map your internal sectors to either NACE, ISIC, GICS, or GTAP. And again, these are the economic sectors that you use to identify your own investments. The JIM, of course, here you can see supports NACE, ISIC, GICS, or GTAP. So first, if you don't already use either of those, then you must report your internal sectors to those. Second, you fill out the input template, which input necessity, what is required of you to input is variable, but we at least do require revenue data or sector exposure data. And we have a wide range of optional inputs that can help refine the JIM's calculations and make it more granular and more accurate. So once you input that information into our input template, you will upload that onto the JIM website. This is all done in Excel, and then you upload to our JIM portal online. The JIM will run. It will run its calculations using your input template, and it will then output your estimated impacts in the form of an Excel sheet. So, and then you will receive an Excel sheet with a nice user-friendly table reporting on those three impacts that we discussed: GHG emissions, employment supported, and value added. And then you will also receive the raw data, which you can use to make your pivot tables and run all sorts of analyses, whatever you wish. So that is it for our content today. We're so thankful and excited that you guys joined us to listen and hear a refresher on impact reporting and assessment. and also a little bit of a glimpse on Azerbaijan's portfolio and economy. And finally, we just wanted to let you guys know of an exciting update at the gym. Because we are always pushing for systemic change, we do a lot of projects at the national level, and we will be working with the Central Bank of Bangladesh to do a nationwide program of the gym. So if you have any contacts there or have any words of wisdom for us, please feel free to reach out. But that is an exciting update that we wanted to let you guys know. So now we do have a bit of time for questions. If you will put them in the chat, we will be able to answer them, and hopefully we will get to address most of them. So the first question we have is from Yassine or Omri, Yassine or Omri, and they ask, does the model calculate financed emission intensity, which is tons of CO2 equivalent by million invested? And I believe we do have Laia here also for the question and answer portion. Yes, the model does calculate financed emission intensity. If Laia, do you want to expand on that or?
Yeah, I can. So hi, Yassine. That's not the start point of the joint impact model because we do model the data based on sector country average. I believe, as Rebecca mentioned, we use input-output modeling. However, being able to calculate the intensity is a byproduct of that. So thankfully, yeah, at the end results, when you get your outputs, you see your absolute emissions per scope as well as your intensity on scope as well.
Great. Elizabeth asked, do you have thresholds of what might be, for example, high emissions per dollar invested, or a way of comparing the data from the GIM outputs?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. We are still finding the best approach to that ourselves, Elizabeth. But to give you a bit of insight into how we work on the sector side at the moment, on our website, we publish every single impact report that is being issued by using the GIM from all of our members. So that's an initial point of comparison. Right now, we are working on putting together a bit of a little benchmark based on central bank's data to be able to give you a sense of comparison. So that will be in the website soon as well. So hopefully that will be helpful. But yeah, still filling the benchmarking issue. If anyone has any ideas and you want to put them in the chat, we'll be very happy to take them into account.
Yep. Great. And this is all what the GIM is about, is increasing transparency and making sure that more data is available so that more institutions can provide benchmarking against each other. So please keep that in mind in your own institutions as well. Stuart asked, do you share the sources of the sector emission intensity factors? And has the model been calibrated with a top-down assessment of GHGs for an entity?
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. So about sources, yeah, all the sources of our data are in our methodology, including all the calculations which you can find on our website. But to give you a quick recap, we have three main sources of data. One is GTAP, the Global Trade Analysis Project. The second one is the ILO, the International Labour Organization. And the third one is the World Bank. Those are the three sources we get all of our data. We combine it that way. You can find the specifics on the methodology. And about the calibration, I hope I understand the question correctly, and you mean validation. So we have two ways to give you an answer to this. The first way is we have most of our DFIs who have been using the GIM, also checking with the empirical data they have. So that's a bit of a low-key validity. The second, and probably more sturdy, is that we are right now currently undergoing a validation process with KPMG on the new version of the model, which will be available in the coming 2 months. And that will also be nice, a sense of safety for us as well. So I hope that's what you meant with calibrated. If that's not it, please do jump in or put something in the chat. Happy to answer.
Great. Yassine is back with, is there a plan to include sovereign data in the future?
Yeah. So At the moment, to be honest, hasn't been considered. The reason why is because we are very much a member-led organization. As Rebecca explained, we are a nonprofit, and the next steps of the gym are dictated by our members. I mean, we all have different interests in the team, of course, but in most of the cases, we just get in touch with all of our members, ask what's necessary, and that's how we keep developing. For example, to give you an example, with the current version of Gym, which is 3.1, we included the Scope 3 upstream and Category 15. There was a high demand from our members to include downstream, and that's going to be available in the next version 4.0, which again will be out beginning next year, I believe. So that's how we do it. So if you are interested in sovereign data and you want to join us as a member, we'll be happy to put that in a forum.
Yep. Lesh asked, how do you avoid double counting Scope 3 emissions in the central bank portfolio, which may have overlapping companies?
Yeah, great question. So the way we avoid the double counting of emissions is through the way we insert the data. In this case of the Azerbaijani Central Bank, the way we have run the gym has been with unfortunately the lowest data quality, which is sector exposure. Sumiran has done this exercise, but including the exposure in each of the sectors. And we have not looked at companies itself, just as the total outstanding per sector based on the Central Bank of Azerbaijan. Of course, if you're running this for your own company, hopefully you'll have client-specific data of your investments, in which case you will insert company by company, also avoiding the overlapping.
Great. Thomas asked, is the gym able to estimate emissions avoided as a result of a project, or is this planned in the future?
Yeah. So another great question. At the moment, the gym is not able to estimate emissions avoided. If you have them, you can insert them and they will be put into the model. But it's definitely in our plans. We see a lot of push from our members to bump up to consumption data or physical activity data, which will enable us also to estimate these emissions avoided or reduced in a way. So that's something that we have in mind, and we are hopefully going to work into implementing, at least for a few key sectors, relatively soon.
Great. That's all the questions that I see in the chat right now. Do we have any final ones? Wait just a few minutes. If you haven't already scheduled a demo with us, and if you've never spoken to us before at all, there's no strings attached. We would love to speak with you and introduce the model to you. So if you have not already, please head to our website and schedule a demo through our free trial button on the top right of our website. And that should be in the chat now. Thanks to Laya. Yeah, so also on this website, you can view all of our methodology, all of our documentation, practical user guide, as well as our input file template. So you can start to familiarize yourself with it and read through our methodology if you are interested. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, so I guess that will be all for today. But thank you, everyone, so much for your participation and your questions. Again, please drop us a line if you're interested at all, and we look forward to hopefully seeing most of you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy Azerbaijan. Enjoy Baku if you're there.
It's fine.